a principle in a software engineering. So the first is that is what is software design. Software design is an activity in which you identify a software components and their relationship based on the customer requirement. So we are creating an activity through which we are identify a software components कौन-कौन से होते हैं उनका क्या relationship है customer की requirement के साथ and how we can identify and finalize it. So जब भी software design करते हैं basically we are consider about we are represent whatever the user requirement we represent that requirement in a good design form. तो उसके लिए हमें जो भी चाहिए होता है जैसे कि हम रिकॉग्नाइज करते हैं सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर वो उसकी अचीवमेंट्स के जो भी इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं हम जैसे कि सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स उसको वेल मीनिंगफुल क्वालिटी रिलायबिलिटी मेंटेनेबिलिटी को कंसिडर करते हुए एक डिज़ाइन क्रिएट करते हैं जो कि सॉफ्टवेयर डिज़ाइन डॉक्यूमेंट के बारे में पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन देता है. Software design, what is it? Software design is an iterative process through which requirements are translated into a blueprint. जो भी हमारी requirements हैं उसको वो blueprint form में formalize करता है for constructing the software. User depend upon the requirements जिसे हम SRS documents भी कहते हैं we are creating it और SRS होता है software requirement specification. So it's a framework of designing through which we are designing a software. So during a designing process, software requirement model जो होता है, we can transform into a designing model and that describe the detail of the data structure, system architecture, interface and the component. So each design product is reviewed for the quality before moving to the next phase of the software development. So as a quality point of view, we will create a high level of designs through which we will create in such a way कि हमें कहीं भी कोई error ना find out हो. So before that we are moving toward the objective of software design that will helpful for designing a good software. So first is correctness in which good design should be correctly implement होना चाहिए इसके लिए. Then second is understandability. Design should be readable हो, understandable हो. Whatever you can generate a code that should be correctly on a both side, right? So that should be easily understandable and readable form में होना चाहिए. Modularity, it is also attribute of a good design. अब modules जो भी आपने design किए हैं that are properly arranged in a order. Then completeness, in which good design require a different components to design like internal data structure जो कि हमने पहले बात की थी. Then we are moving toward a efficiency जिसमें good design should be efficient होना चाहिए. Efficient means consume less processor time and a memory and produce a good result. So we are considering efficiency of the software from that point of view. Next है आपका consistency. Design should follow consistency through the system. So it is a consistent हमारा required result perform करना चाहिए. Verifiability, डिजाइन शुड बी करेक्ट होना चाहिए वेरीफाइएबल होना चाहिए. नेक्स्ट है मींस इजीली अप्लाइबल होना चाहिए. लास्ट है ट्रेसेबिलिटी. डिजाइन शुड बी ट्रेसेबल सो इट्स ए ट्रेसेबल डिजाइन इट्स डिजाइन वेरिफिकेशन हो जाती है इजीली. So these are the various objectives which we are considering whenever we are start designing process. So software design, I have shown you figures in which analyze modeling and software design that is a prototypes in which requirements are not specified but we are working on it. So designing model क्या है? Database design created by transforming the analysis information model into a data structure. हम उस फॉर्म में उसको करते हैं. Architectural design defines the relationship among the major structural elements of the software and other parts. So interface design describe how the software elements communicate with each other. So with other system and with the human users. So we are considering this is a major part. Interface design might be you are designing according to a window point of view. Somewhere they are using a open source software. So open means Red Hat they are using. So whenever your compatibility communication that should be you can check it and might be somewhere your software is used on a mobile, Android, tab. You can create an interface design easily manageable कि वो सभी के ऊपर similar way में दिखना चाहिए. It should not be चेंजेबल, कि वो अलग अलग फॉर्म में ना हो, ओवरलैपिंग ना हो डिजाइन. यू आर कंसिडरिंग अबाउट दीज फैक्टर्स ऑल्सो वेन एवर यू स्टार्ट डिजाइनिंग. Component level designing, created by transforming the structural element defined by the software architecture into procedural description of the software components. सो दिस इज अ ट्रांसलेटिंग एनालिसिस मॉडल, जिसमें हम डिजाइन को करते हैं, जिसमें ईआरडी मैंने बताया है, डीएफडी ट्रांजिशन डायग्राम्स को लिया है. वी आर डिफाइनिंग दिस स्ट्रक्चर. So data design is also most important architectural design as well as interface design and component design. So this is a criteria which we are considering while designing. So we can translate analysis model into a software design. हमने उसको software design की form में convert करना है. Then we are moving toward the principles. So whenever we design, we are considering about it is a creative skill. कि पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस क्या है हमारा, ओवरऑल कमिटमेंट ओवर द क्वालिटी फैक्टर, ऑल दीज फैक्टर आर मेजर कंसिडरेशन अबाउट अ डिजाइनिंग पार्ट. ओवरऑल प्रोजेक्ट डिपेंड अपॉन अ डिजाइनिंग ऑल्सो. if you lack somewhere in a designing, 100% sure your software get failure. So designing is most important part. First is that should not suffer from a tunnel visions, in which a good designer should consider all alternatives approaches जितने भी हैं, judging each based upon the requirements, problems, resources, designings, so that get a required result. And next is that design principle should not be traceable to analysis model. So whenever we traces multiple requirements, then it is necessary to have a means of tracking how requirements have been satisfied by the design model. So how we can satisfy this, all these things, that is most important part. Next is that is our third factor is should not reinvent the wheel. Means design time should be invested in the representing with truly new ideas. Whatever we specify integrating dot pattern that already existing, we can reinvent the wheel. Means new ideas can be implemented on it. That design should be minimize intellectual distance between the software and the problem as exist in the real world. So we will try to make intellectual distance minimize and between the software and the problem that we have to create. तो उसके लिए हमें डिजाइनिंग को should be mimic the structure of the problem domain, उसको करना पड़ेगा. Then design should exhibit uniformity and integration. So design by defining rules जो भी हमारे हैं, जैसे कि uniformity होनी चाहिए and the process should be start properly. Then design should be structured to accommodate changes. That is most important. That the design should be flexible होना चाहिए, extensible होना चाहिए and easily accommodate करना चाहिए changes को. Then the design should be assessed for the quality as it's being created. So we have to consider about the quality factor also in it, and design should be made in easily so that we can progress toward it. And design should be reviewed to minimize conceptual systematic errors. So that is most important. The designing team should ensure that there is no ambiguity, there is inconsistency are addressed without considering the syntax and design problem in it. So all these factors we are considering whenever we are designing, because design is not a coding and coding is not a design. So we have to consider very much serious about while designing a software. So these are a concept while designing. That's the first is abstraction, in which we allow a designer to focus on the solving a problem without being considered about irrelevant lower level details. So first is data abstraction, in which the named collection of data objects, procedural abstraction, named sequence of event, control abstraction, program control, refinement. That is also most important process of elaboration where the designer provides successively more detail for each design components. So this is an example through which I will show you a implement of a data structure here, and we are mentioning a manufacturer model number, type, swings, direction, insert, light, all these things. And a procedural abstraction in which we are open detail of enter algos, whatever we are using in it. With the help of figure I will try to explain. Stepwise refinement where the detail of enter algo and walk to the knobs. So as you know, the stepwise refinement, that is the most important for the designing point of view. So refinement is an elaboration of detail of the all abstraction. We can detail abstraction elaborating from the top to bottom towards to it. The refinement is an important aspect. So next is designing concept modularity. That is also most important. That can be divided as separately named and addressable components called modules. So we can modules like easier to build, easier to change. So whenever we are discuss about a modularity, we are considering about a decomposability. We can decompose a problem into small parts. छोटी छोटी बड़ी problem को छोटे छोटे हिस्सों में हम divide कर लेते हैं. Then composability, then understand, then continuity, and then we can use a protection system to get a required result. So next, this is a way through which we can representing the core implement efforts we are implementing, a number of modules, and what are the total software's cost. So we have to consider about all these factors while we are designing. So next is software architecture. As you know, the architecture is mostly depend upon the designing part. So overall structure of the software component and the way in which the structure provide conceptual integrity of the systems. So we are a good software architecture we are considering and good return and investment with respect to the desired outcome that depend upon it. So whenever we design, we are considering all these aspects. Data structure, as you know, representation of logical relationship among the individual data elements. So software procedures, processing detail of each modules, as you know, the event sequence, decision point, repetitive operation, data organizations. So we have to consider about a hierarchy, control hierarchy in it that represent a module organizations. So implies hierarchy of the control but does not represent the procedural aspects of the softwares. So information hiding, as you know, information that is your data and a procedure that contained within a module and accessible to the module that have no need for the such a information. Patterns, as you know, there is a pattern of designing that we have to do while designing a solution to one a solution to recurring problems. Refactoring, process of changing a software system in such a way that it does not alter the external behavior of the design, yet improve the internal structure we are improving in it. So thank you everyone. If you face any problem, email me.